Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for coming. A lot of familiar faces here. Most of you folks know me, but unlike most speakers, I'll tell you about me at the end. So I'm just going to get right into it. We're going to be talking a lot about where the potential markets opportunities are for retail print, because there's a lot of misconceptions in retail print, right? Young kids don't print, they don't, we've all been hearing that for years, and it's actually completely the opposite. There's a lot of reasons why. There's cultural reasons why, there's technology reasons why, and there's just, it's a great product. We should all be excited about print because it's a great product. And there's a lot more things you can do with it, right? It's not just a sheet of paper 6 inches wide and 4 inches deep that you produce, right? There's still a lot of those being made, but it's also a very versatile product, right? If we kind of look at print holistically. Kind of what is the market? And the market I like to talk about is the memories market, right? The market that we all talk about. Now, memories can take a lot of different forms. And at the end of the presentation, trying to keep an eye on the time, we're going to talk a little bit about where you can kind of pivot from the memories market into the stories market, because that's really where the money is, helping people tell their stories, which may or may not even be quote unquote memories. It could be a lot of different things. So that's when I talk about the memories market, that's what we're talking about. It's not necessarily, there's a lot of opportunity in other markets that are kind of, I consider adjacent. For example, like you hear a lot about content creators and merch stores, and that's where a lot of the investment community is going into, where you have, YouTubers creating merch. That's great, and we should all try and participate as much as possible on that. That's just not what I'm going to talk about today. That's a whole nother discussion, the whole merch and content creator community, right? It's a big opportunity there. Generally speaking, the general estimates are North American photo printing is about $8 billion, and it's, for the people I'm talking about, photo printing. I'm not talking about, again, the content creators, all the other these people are primarily for photo. And it's growing about 5% a year. It's still growing pretty significantly. So that's a great opportunity for a lot of people. It's not growing like the AI market is, obviously, but it's still growing pretty much. Now, the source on this is weird because there's really no great industry stats anymore. Since there's really no holistic place to find industry research anymore. So I'm relying on what a friend of mine calls Wagner research, which is wild ass guess, not easily refuted. So it's basically a compilation of a lot of different sources, right? So there's not one source on these things. So when I say a range, it could be somewhere in there. But it gives you kind of general direction on where things are and where some of the opportunities are, what's growing, what's flat, that kind of thing. So I'm going to talk a lot about online photo services. I'm going to talk about brick and mortar, which a lot of you folks are. And again, that's a great opportunity. And some of you may be playing as an online presence as well. That's fine, right? But you're primarily brick and mortar. Shop local is a big trend right now for a lot of different reasons, a lot of different markets. Because of the consolidation in the online space, the local market is actually where a lot of people now want to support. So that's a way you can lean into that and have a huge impact in your market. And of course, online and ship to home is still a big market. So when we talk about these things, there's a bunch of different ways to look at that market, right? There's the consumer brands, which include Shutterfly, Snapfish, Mixbook is a big consumer brand. And also you have your photo players who are kind of the big brands who are retail, who have online presence, like Walgreens, CVS, and those kind of folks. And those brands probably make up 50 to 55% of the marketplace. There's a lot of volume that goes through there. But we're going to talk about in a little bit how those markets are kind of being challenged right now with consolidation of their retail presence, right? There's drugstores closing all over the place, right? So that's a challenge for the industry. It's not just a great opportunity. Then there's kind of what I call boutique consumer, which are brands that are not really radically different from the Shutterfly Snapfish, but they present themselves as higher quality, right? You got your MPix, your Printique, you got your Nation's Photo, Artifact Uprising, those kind of people where it's like, our stuff's a little better, so you should pay a little more, and we have unique designs, we may have different things, right? And then, of course, there's the pro labs who go direct to consumers. Those are the folks who, us old timers remember Bay Photo and that kind of stuff. And there isn't a professional market anymore that can support them solely, so they now market to consumers, right? So they're trying to reach that higher end of the market. And then, of course, there's the weirdo apps that are out there, the free prints, and the prints is another one that's out there. They do a lot of volume. Consumers really like them, the free prints. Is everyone familiar with free prints? What's happening there with them? I mean, who's tried it? Chuck, you haven't tried it? So it's a real interesting idea because it's literally what it says. You get an allotment of free prints and you just basically pay shipping. But what it really is, it's a marketing gimmick to harvest your data so they can resell it. That's what it's about. So don't be in that business if you can avoid it. Getting into kind of the market size, the ProLab people are about 5 to 10% of the market. And then, so for the online people, it's a large part of the market. Then in brick and mortar, we've got your mass market. And the challenge we've got there is, of course, a lot of consolidation that's happening just in retail. You look around and there's just a lot of empty storefronts, right? People are going, and even among the IPI membership, I've seen kind of a movement of people going home, right? They're putting labs in their homes, like Alan Showalter would be an example, and they're closing their retail stores, and they're still being online, but they are closing the retails, right? And that's not such a great thing for the industry in a lot of ways, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But that's a large part of the market. And what's interesting is Walgreens is probably, of those players, probably the most committed to the category. They are doing very well because they've really leaned into it. CVS, not so much. They still have some kiosk presence, but not so much. And of course, Walmart's a big player. They commit a lot to it, and they're a great presence in the industry. So in the in-store kiosks world, we've got your Walgreens, your Fujifilm, we've got your Kodak Moments, and of course the independent channel, right? All of you with Dacus kiosks and Photo Finale kiosks and PixFizz and all that. That's still a substantial part of the marketplace. That's probably still 10% of volume going through the brick and mortar world. And then of course, I mentioned earlier, the Pro Labs going direct consumer. Some of them are working their way into brick and mortar locations. They're kind of looking at that, because we'll get into that in a minute. So the retail market is drastically changing. And the reason why it's drastically changing is because of a lot of external reasons that have nothing to do with photo. It's estimated that CVS Walgreens have lost about 3,000 locations just because their business model is changing, right? Because they're seeing competition from online drug. And the reason why that's a challenge for you as independents is they're not out promoting it anymore, right? You don't walk into a CVS and see a big photo display like you used to do. You still see it in Walgreens. Rite Aid closed, and that took about 2,000 presence. So the challenge for the industry is that people aren't constantly being reminded that photo is a good thing and that people ought to be doing it, right? That is the benefit. When Costco got out of the business, people went into Costco who had a lot of money were being reminded constantly, I should be printing my pictures. Maybe they should print it somewhere else with one of you guys for sure. But at least there was the reminder there, and that's being lost. We've got no one major retailer in store, other than Walgreens probably, on a national level, telling people they ought to print their pictures. So now that could be a great opportunity for people, but the reality is that's one of the, if you talk about one of the challenges that we have. And then even then we had Sam's Club go down. Their photo, I checked it last night, it's still not up. They've been down for months because of a technical issue, I've been told. That's not great. Does everyone think that's a great thing for the industry? Not really, no. So let's talk about some of the opportunities that the industry has as an output option, because like I said earlier, you could pretty much rely, even though in the analog days, we tried to do enlargements, right, as injury. We're going to get people to make more 8x10s and all that. That was still less than 2% of any images enlarged ever made bigger. In the digital world, everything can be made bigger and in a lot more surfaces. So that's a great opportunity to think. So obviously prints are still growing. If you're not really pushing just flat prints as a market, you're missing an opportunity because kids love the prints. They just love flat prints for display, more for decoration, right? They want to make a lot of prints and then they want to, so it's a great opportunity. Wall decor has been growing, obviously, and then cards, gift items, and then of course B2B, which is a huge opportunity. B2B is also a good opportunity because you're active in your local community They may need signage, they may need POP, they may need folders and all these things. So you can compete directly with your local Staples, which is now getting into your business. You can get into their business with a lot of the same equipment you already have. So this is the Wagner research of kind of the percentage in dollars, those product categories, and kind of what direction they're going in. So photo books in terms of dollars are still doing very, very well, and they're still growing. Photo prints, obviously, photo gifts and merchandise is growing dramatically. That's where a lot of people are seeing things. And it's sort of a weird catch-all category. Now, the challenge that we have as an industry with that is the word photo gift doesn't really resonate with consumers. They don't understand it. Merchandise doesn't. So we haven't figured out, and I've been trying to figure this out for 30 years, what do we call that stuff, right? The photo merch or whatever. We haven't figured that out. There's so many options. I was at a conference a couple weeks ago, and Fujifilm from PPG Group did a presentation on their facility. They make more than 400 different products in there. And it's just crazy when you talk about the variety of products that is available in photo printing. How do you communicate that to the customer? How do you convince them that product number 277 is the one they need to buy? So it's a big challenge. So wall decor cards are flat, and calendars, even though they're still out there, are declining. People are doing the most stuff on their phones. So calendars, they're still out there. You should still do them, but you're not going to grow your calendar business a great deal. So what's driving retail in general right now? It's Amazon, but not what they do. It's what they promise. Moderating a panel online recently with some of the big online photo companies, and they were talking about speed is what customers are looking for now. They want their stuff right away. Quality and service are now secondary to speed. How fast can I get it? So that's something you need to respond to, right? How fast can you get someone in order? Can you get it to them? Can you do it when you promise? People aren't going to wait 3 days for a photo book anymore or online. They're going to want it in 2 days. And so that is really changing the dynamics of retail. What's driving the market is a reaction to a lot of the AI stuff that's happening now, which I think is just fascinating. AI really going to be in the entertainment business. It's going to be a game changer. Now, fortunately, we're not in the entertainment business. We are in the memories and stories business. But in the I just saw a story that Val Kilmer is going to be in a new movie, and he's been dead for a year. Wow. And they have, and it's not even like they took old footage and redid it. They've recreated him to be in this movie. There's recently where Disney did a deal that you can license their characters for an OpenAI Sona video. So if you want to put Mickey Mouse or Buzz Lightyear or something in your own movie, you can do that now. Now, I think that's going to change a lot of things. I don't think we're very far from a time period where I want to make an action movie and I want to do it with Matt Damon, buddy cop movie. I'll be able to license that image from him, and as long as he's not doing anything illegal or against his brand, for $50 I can have him in my movie, and I can now distribute that because it's licensed. I can now have that, put it on YouTube, and I can be my own movie studio. That's coming very quickly. That's going to change entertainment completely. But on the other hand, where it gets into our business then is things that are actually real are going to matter more. Actual, authentic, real things, because people are going to know it's AI, right? They know I don't know Matt Damon. We're not in a buddy cop movie, and it's a stupid story anyway. But it's entertainment. People watch all kinds of junk now. So that, I think, is going to affect the entertainment industry. But from the memory storytelling industry, that's where the value of a print, the value of a tangible product is going to have much more currency than it is. And there's a lot of evidence to show that that's already starting to happen. The vinyl phenomenon. Vinyl has come back. Who here remembers vinyl? Who here regrets selling their vinyl collection? Because Kurt's over here going, yes, I know. Because you have current artists who are popular. You're not authentic now as an artist unless you release your media on vinyl. And I think even when you have musical artists is a good example, or even with storytelling with theater, I think that's in-person performances and theater are going to come back because of the reaction to the AI. So this is part of that whole idea that vinyl is way more authentic, whatever that is, than digital streaming. Because right now there's, you go and turn on Spotify and there's AI music being created. And to be honest, it's not that bad. It's okay. It's not any worse than the average pop song you've heard 10 years ago. It's not that bad. If you can be replaced by AI in entertainment, you will be. Your reaction should be, how can I not be AI? How can I add a human being to a process and provide something tangible? So what's interesting is that, again, it's not as big of a market as it used to be in terms of units, but in terms of value, it's actually increasing a lot. The value that people are getting for LPs is much higher because people are willing to pay more per unit for these. So again, I think we're going to start seeing, in terms of a pricing model, I think you're going to see people paying more for tangible things. Walmart just announced with their quarterly earnings, they're going to be focusing more on margin rather than sales for the first time in years. So think about that. People are going to be searching for margin now because everything's just so cutthroat out there. So that's something to think about, right? You're going to be able to make more per product than you were previously. And I've got 5 minutes, so I'm in good shape. So DVDs are another one. I just saw this. DVDs are coming back because people are tired of having to subscribe to a service just to watch a movie. Or HBO took their favorite movie off the service for whatever reason they do that. So people are now buying DVDs. So when I make my Matt Damon action buddy cop movie, I'm going to press that thing to DVD and I'm going to sell it. Why not? So the other thing that's happening is, as a culture, we now value leisure time more than we did, right? It used to be work 80 hours a week. I grew up in the 80s, all that greed is good stuff. Now people are looking to take a more holistic view of their life, right? They want to have their work-life balance. And having creative expression as part of that is a huge opportunity for this. We're living kind of in I wouldn't say in the golden age, but in a lot of ways, if you lived 100 years ago, you probably didn't take a shower every day. You probably didn't have indoor plumbing in a lot of places. And now, 100 years later, we have the luxury of being able to create digital photography and have all these things and be able to express ourselves. And that's a big opportunity. That's, if you look at in terms of economics, where in terms of consumer spending, what people are spending money on. It's not food, it's not clothing, those aren't growing. It's entertainment, it's self-expression. It's experiences. Those are what people want to spend money on. So how can you, as a person who's going to help someone tell the story, enable that and give them something to remind it from? So I just thought this was cool. This is a new app. I don't know anything about these people. I've reached out to them on LinkedIn, and we're going to talk at some point, have them on the podcast. This is an app, and it's a disposable film camera reinvented. It's they're out of Canada, and the app is free, but you have to buy a roll of film, a digital roll of film, and it's 24 or 36 exposures in those formulations, and you take a picture. You don't get to delete it. You don't get to see it. When the roll is done, it uploads, and they send you physical prints. I don't know if that's going to be a hit. I don't know, but I love the idea, right? It's a cool idea. And I just think, because they understand that that's what people really want. They want that experience of taking a picture and not knowing what's going to happen. And hope, then of course, so anyway, it'll be interesting to see what happens with it. So again, and they're getting $9 or $10 for 24 exposures. Now, who's selling film here? What are you getting for a roll of film now? Yeah, at least that. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So that I think is a great story. If you're not familiar with it, you can look it up. Also, to plug my own stuff, I've had Charlie Green, the CEO of Memento, on my podcast. The short story there is, because it's kind of a long story, he was on Shark Tank last year, and he got Mark Cuban to give him $300,000 to invest in his company. What he provides is an app that helps people tell their family stories, and then it uses AI to create a physical book. And it's a great story. Go online and watch the video. But the point is that people want to tell their stories. They just need help. And part of the deliverable is at the end of, so every week the app prompts you, tell me a story about this picture. And you describe, and it shows the picture. Tell me, what were you doing in this picture? And it does some AI prompting. It's very clever. And then at the end, it prints a book with that picture in it. That's why it uses pictures to tell the story. And Mark Cuban thought enough of that to put $300,000 of his own money to buy 10% of this company to get it going. So it's kind of cool. So that's me. That's who you've been listening to for the last 30 some minutes. And that's my stuff. So listen to the podcast, subscribe to the newsletter, go to the website. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.